Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. And welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, Talks from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. We will be opening up the phone lines in a bit, so when we do, the phone number is 562-542-3261 or 562-LibDan1. We'll cover a couple of the topics beforehand, but I'm probably going to have open lines maybe longer than most nights, simply because of the fact that, you know, I've been super busy running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and, you know, it's just...
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Took the words right out of my mouth. Shouts out to everybody who's joined us in the chat. We got Aaron, Nick, Alton, Josh, Lisa, Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
Lisa... Scrolling, see who I missed. TV2 Live is in the chat. Good to see you, TV2 Live. Midas Kevin, good to see you as well. Hey, what's going on? Penny to Create, Roxanne. I was singing that from my, it came on the radio the other day, and I was just singing it to my son, and I was doing it like, you know, the high pitch, like Sting, and my son was not enjoying it at all. What's up, Bill? Wait, just trying to see how many of Hal's little sparklers have been helping him build bridges. What's that about, Bill? Appreciate the raid. Thank you so much. Trying to see. We're scrolling pretty fast at this moment. We got Rose, Liberal Rose, in the show. That's what y'all come to see. It's not me, I know. It's Rose and her cloaking butt. Her phasing in and out of existence. What you doing, Rose? You miss your mommy? I know you miss your mommy. You're going to love it when she comes home. We are targeting a date for her to come home, maybe as early as Saturday. I'm not holding my breath, but, you know... We're going to see if she's able to come home. I need to get these kids in line and trying to help me clean so that she can have, because she unfortunately will probably still be sleeping downstairs in the bed that we have down there that we had for my mother-in-law until she gets well enough to be able to climb up and down the stairs all the time. So I'm still going to have the lonely king-size bed all to myself, which is not a good thing. But it will be a good thing to have her home. She's eating. Everything's tastes well now. Apparently, me and her were the talk of the hospital floor on Valentine's Day night, simply because of the fact that I went and got her some of her favorite food and brought it to her so we could have dinner in her room. And that also ended up, I went out and bought, like, on Amazon, like, these 3 little electric or battery operated remote control candles, which can be just lights, or they can flicker like candles as well. So we had a faux candlelight dinner for our Valentine's dinner, since she couldn't go anywhere. And I ordered it from Fogo, and initially they were not going to let me do it. They called me at like 8:30 in the morning, and they're like, we typically don't do to-go orders on Valentine's Day. And I'd scheduled to be like 5:15 pickup, and I was like, let me tell you what happened. And because I would like to request that you make an exception for my small order. And he listened, and I talked for about, 5 minutes or so and explained the whole situation. And he was like, I'll see what I can do for you. Can you come in a little bit earlier? And I was like maybe like 15 minutes earlier. I was like, I'll see what I can do for you. And so we, I got there, and it was great. Like, I pulled up, I found a parking spot right on Canal Street, which is ridiculous that I was able to get a spot. It was technically in a valet spot, but I asked the valet person, I was like, I need to go pick this up. Can I go run in, run out real quick? He's like, sure. I'm like, thank you. And as soon as I walked into the restaurant, he was coming out of the kitchen area with my to-go order. So boom, boom, boom. I made sure to tip the guy an extra 20. Make sure it got sped around to the people. I already tipped, but making sure it got out and all the stuff that they were dealing with, I was very happy to give that little extra money to them. And she was very happy, very excited to get some of her favorite food, and it was some of her. Because it's one of her favorites, so a big tipper, but I did not give them just the tip. Anyway, hey Orville, it'll be good to see you over on the Twitch chat as well. Let's see, just kind of scroll, just see if I have anything I've missed. Lisa, I've moved on from stress cleaning to stress painting of walls. I really wish I could actually get into some stress cleaning, because I need something like that going on in my house right now, because we have way too much crap laying around, and my wife's coming home in 6 days now, supposedly, so we will see. Anyway, but if you still wish to contribute to the GoFundMe is linked to in the show description here on YouTube as well. So check that out if you have not done so, and if you if you can't contribute, just maybe consider sharing. You can also support the show, Venmo, Liberal Dan and Venmo. You can become a patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Anyway, get you there. Go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio and do a one-time contribution. You can buy subscriptions over on Twitch. You can do it for free if you have Amazon Prime over here. You can buy or gift memberships. You can yourself become a liberal Danimal, or gift other people to become liberal Danimals as well. But of course, yes, Jeff, I have cobwebs all over my shirt. That's why I need to clean house. Yes, that is true. Funny, because I hate spiders, but this is a Stitch shirt, so I love Stitch, so I'll wear the spider shirt. It's just what I happened to throw on today when I went to go to the hospital before I picked up my son from school. So, I'm super tired today, so I don't know how long I'm going to last today, but,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Herr Donald. See, anyone see the movie Major Payne? He ate barbecued rat. People were reduced to eating rat snakes, and who knows what else if these psychopaths aren't stopped. I agree with you, Bill. 100% agree with you. And we have a bunch of stuff that we're going to be talking about today, all about those things. I need to pull up one thing real quick as I'm talking, because there's some Louisiana things that I want to talk about. Department of Health. Vaccines, because Louisiana made the whatchamacallit decision to do something. Let's switch that thing real quick. All right, so Louisiana has its own DOGE, and Louisiana has its own RFK Jr. Why do I say that? Well, back in December, I think there was talks about it, and the conservative morning show I listened to try and get some show prep, and I'll sometimes call in and debate the fools that are on there. The host basically said that he had spoken to the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, and he said that he was going to that he should do something like at the state level, like they're doing on the federal level, by making a DOGE like LA version. So that's apparently what Jeff Landry is doing. He's going to try and do all of the horrible things that Elon Musk is doing at the federal level and bring it down to the state of Louisiana. What could go wrong, they say. But not only that, the state's Surgeon General, Dr. Ralph Abraham, Dr. Ralph Abraham ran for Congress once. Dr. Ralph Abraham was featured in a commercial for Bobby Jindal way back in the day, I think in his first gubernatorial campaign. Might have been a second, I don't know. But it basically talking about how Governor Jindal was so wonderful back when he was in charge of the Louisiana Department of Health, because he did such wonderful things for that Department of Health by turning our deficit into a surplus or whatever that was. In reality, it meant by running a surplus in the Louisiana Department of Health, Bobby Jindal ended up not spending money that should have been used to get better health outcomes for the people on states' Medicaid systems. And what they ended up doing is they ended up closing down rural clinics so that the people would have to go potentially drive longer distances. Or maybe they could just go to Dr. Abraham's clinic, and I wonder how much more people Dr. Abraham got, in his clinic because Bobby Jindal ended up shuttering clinics to save money. I mean, the conservative motivation for everything seems to always be profit. But maybe, just maybe, making sure that people are taken care of and people have their health issues dealt with properly shouldn't be an issue of profit. Some things are necessities that need to be done, and they're good to do them simply for the fact that they're good to do. But now, Dr. Ralph Abraham is the Louisiana State Surgeon General, and he is quoted as saying, "The state of Louisiana and the Louisiana Department of Health have historically promoted vaccines for vaccine-preventable illnesses through our parish health units, community health fairs, partnerships, and media campaigns." Excuse me. Abraham wrote in a memo addressed to LDH team members, "While we encourage each patient to discuss the risks and benefits of vaccination with their provider, the Louisiana Department of Health will no longer promote mass vaccinations." The directive, first reported by Times-Picayune, came the same day that anti-vaccine advocate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was sworn in as Secretary of U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It was a timing that Dr. Jennifer Avegno, Director of the Health Department for the City of New Orleans, said wasn't a coincidence. She said now they have in the ultimate health authority in America someone who has been a champion of the same falsehoods that has been promulgated today. Avegno told CNN during a Senate confirmation Kennedy was given opportunities to walk back his stances on vaccines and he didn't really take them. New Orleans basically said that we have a independent health department here and is not subject to the state's directive and that they will not be abiding. So fortunately, I live in the city of New Orleans, and the city of New Orleans will continue to promote max vaccinations to the people in the city to make sure that we're healthy. Unfortunately, we're surrounded by non-New Orleans parish residents, and as such, we're going to see things like going down, like vaccination rates, and things going up like measles rates, mumps, rubella, all the polio, all the things that, we had stopped and brought to a halt are now going to be coming back live in living color in the state of Louisiana because we have basically pandered to the lowest common denominator. Donald Trump said that he loved the poorly educated, and the poorly educated constantly try and prove themselves worthy of that love. And, for somebody who is a doctor, a medical doctor, to say that we should not be promoting max vaccinations, I could almost forgive RFK Jr. because he's not a doctor for his false beliefs about vaccines. But this is a doctor. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. And again, we as a state are going to be putting more people at risk. Not only people, children who should be getting their vaccinations but now won't be because you have parents who have been made to fear and believe falsehoods about vaccines and what vaccines do and the link of vaccinations and autism and how autism has supposedly risen over the course of the last 10, 20 years or ever since we started mass vaccinations, which is their typical go-to line. Of course, they're confusing correlation and causation there. We can get into that in a little bit if you want. However, but it's also going to harm people who can't get vaccinated against these diseases and rely on the herd immunity that's created by having everybody else vaccinated. So you reduce the vectors of transmission that these diseases that we've gotten rid of can take to get into the populace and harm the people who are the most vulnerable when it comes to vaccines. Take, for example, my wife, who this is going to hit close to home because because of the condition that she was diagnosed with, it is very well possible that she may not be able to take any live vaccine variants or whatever. She is going to be limited on the types of vaccines that she could take because it could harm her system. So they're putting my wife at risk by doing this, by not going with the science, by not trusting the science. So you better believe that I'm going to be ranting about this day in and day out, because we have a terribly uninformed populace who think that Donald Trump is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they're going to trust this guy because, oh, well, he's a doctor, so why shouldn't we believe this doctor on what we're going to do? Well, this doctor is a politician first, doctor second. So, yes, Aaron, I can't take any live vaccines because of the treatment I'm on. I think the immunoglobulin therapy that my wife got is what is causing her to not be able to get the live vaccines. I don't know if you're also receiving that as well, Aaron, but yeah, basically, the low information voter is being pandered to. Instead of setting the example of, this is what we should do as a society, they've chosen to just pander to the large amount of voters who they know they won't be able to win if they piss off. So they're just going to keep pandering to them and cause more people to get sick. More people will die in Louisiana, etc. So what do you think? Do you agree with Louisiana's new rules or policies on promoting vaccines or not? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. That's video one that I recorded live for this. Let's see, immune compromised people at risk with herd immunity so low. Exactly, that's exactly. And she's also immunocompromised because of her psoriasis. She has psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. So she had been taking medicine that suppresses her immune system, because basically with psoriasis, it's her immune system attacking her own body, i.e. her skin and her joints. And now also with the Guillain-Barré prognosis or whatever, it's, the nerve endings too. So her body hates her. I don't know what's wrong with her body, because, it should love her, because everyone should love her. But yeah, it's going to piss me off even more now. I was pissed off during the pandemic because of her existing causes, or her existing, not pre-existing condition, her existing conditions that were causing her to be put more at risk by those people who refuse to mask properly, who refuse to socially distance, who refuse to vaccinate, etc. So there's that. But we got more to talk about on today's show. Let's swing it back around to this. Hold on. We will record this again like we do other things in case you're new. I don't think most people here are new, but when I say what do you think, agree, comments below, blah 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 blah. I'm not ending the show. I'm just recording something that I'm going to upload after the show. So just as a reminder, I'll be doing that again at least 2 more times, simply because of the fact that I have 2 more things to plan to record. No official fat man rants, although I think during the Trump administration, almost anything, I should say the Musk administration, anything that they do is going to cause something that could very well qualify as a rant. So, see, it is 420. It is 420 somewhere. Yes, it is. Puff, puff, pass, everybody. Is that a new country song? It's 420 somewhere. See, I had PMR, myalgic rheumatica, but it's over now. It's related to fibromyalgia. Interesting. I think my stepmother thinks that believes that she may very well have had has fibromyalgia, and she limits her gluten, but she doesn't go completely gluten free. So let's see. Try to see if I've missed anything in the chat before I move on to the next topic. See, Suzanne, I go outside every day and get fresh air to absorb the vitamin D. Oh, I wish Impeccable Living was here, Because if Impeccable Living was here, it's like Impeccable Living stays in and gets his D online via Grindr.
Oh my.
Sorry. He needs to come in more often so he can laugh more often. I told him, I went over to Dude after my show last week, and I was like, look, I just uploaded this video. You got to see it, because it was me talking about, how, was it Minnesota or Montana wanted to unban the eating of beaver, and I just had a good old time with that. I do think that's one thing we should all be able to agree on, that everybody should eat beaver. Or at least it should be legal for everybody to eat beaver. They should have the choice as to whether or not they want to eat it or not. Anyway, see, I took steroids for a couple of years and it slowly went away. But was there any bad side effects from the steroids? That's the question, right? Yeah, I was thinking about what to do because it was requested that I sing the news. I've not yet gotten to a point where I figured out how exactly I would want to sing the news. However, we'll work on that, and maybe that'll be a new bit coming up at some time in the near future. Yes, beavers are amazing, and they can actually deal with a whole lot of wood in a short amount of time. But listen, go watch my previous video on the eating of beavers and the legality of it, and make eating beaver great again, or whatever it was. Because I don't want to have to repeat all that again. Some of those jokes I just made up on the fly as I was reading it. I knew some of the things I wanted to say beforehand, but some of it was like, oh, that's another zinger. So I'll leave it to y'all to go look that up after the show if you wish. But it was a fun little bit that I did. Over here, obviously, on YouTube, and I'll have the video. That video is not on Twitch unless you want to watch the whole stream, as previously recorded. So, anyway, there's something that I've been worrying about as it pertains to Donald Trump and DOGE and Elon Musk and everything else, and I'm almost afraid to say it. Why am I almost afraid to say it? I'm almost afraid to say it because of two reasons. A, I'm too often right about these sort of things, and when people call me crazy, I'm like, oh, well, look at that, I predicted it right yet again. And so I was very hesitant to bring this up, simply because of the fact that I don't want to be proven right again. I'd rather not be right. But also, I'm afraid that I could be giving people ideas. Not that I think that anybody from the Trump administration listens to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Live Mondays and Wednesdays here at 8 p.m. Central on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. However, I do think it's something that we need to take into consideration. Because here's the thing. The media already does a piss poor enough job, as we've saw during the last campaign. They do a piss poor job of getting the facts right. They do a piss poor job of informing the electorate. They do a piss poor job of various things, and we need to rely on people who are more reliable when it pertains to giving information to the masses. So what am I concerned with here? Let's say Donald Trump, DOGE, etc., wants to help make the media look bad. Now, he already started doing this back in the 2016 campaign. He started off simply by calling everything fake news. Everything that was said poorly about him, anything bad reporting, was all fake news. Fake news this, fake news this. Basically saying that the press was a bunch of liars, which is directly out of Adolf Hitler's playbook. Calling the Lügen press, or the lying press as it was called back then. Now Donald Trump has his fake news, and he consistently attacked the media over and over and over again, because he wanted people to always have doubts in whatever the media said about him, in case the media actually happened to be telling the truth about him and what he did and what he has done or what he intends to do. Which is why his supporters can get away with saying a whole bunch of ridiculous claims that immediately have to be debunked, because they believe everything that he says and they don't believe the fact-checking from the news. But how can Donald Trump make this worse? Well, what if the Trump administration decided that they were going to fake leak items? So they create something that's a fake story. They leak it out somewhere to somebody in the media. It doesn't really, so it's not a true story. But the media then reports on it because, this is a leak coming from the Trump administration. And then the Trump administration goes, well, I don't know what that is. Here's the facts about this, which completely contradict that. So then, and every time the media does this, they're going to, they will then have to retract it, which will make the media less and less and less trustworthy. Because even though the moral of the story that conservatives think is the moral of the story of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, they believe it's, if somebody lies to you, believe them because, they might actually tell the truth one day. In reality, when it comes to the media, they actually take, the other moral more to heart of, if they lie to you, don't trust them again. But they only give that to the media or to the people who they view on the left as being to the left of them or whatever. So what do we have to do? The first and most important thing that we all have to do, not just media types, not just podcasters, bloggers, creators, etc., but each and every one of us, you, me, your friends, your family, when we see something that's just, just seems too crazy to be potentially true, before sharing it, or even if it doesn't seem too crazy to be true, even if it's not too crazy to be true, even if it's, just plausible but not verified, we need to make sure that it gets verified before sharing it. There's something that I haven't discussed on this show yet, which is the topic of how some legislation is going to force people who take a name after they're married. It's going to force them to have to jump through hoops to be able to cast a ballot, because something about this legislation that's being proposed, supposedly according to some people who are talking about it, is going to cause people to have to either re-register or cause their registrations to fail or cause them to be denied at the voting booth because they're going to be denied the ability to vote because what matches on their birth certificate doesn't match their driver's license, and as such, it's not a match. So unless you can prove with other paperwork that you are who you say you are, you won't be able to cast a ballot. Now, this is what they've said is going to happen. But I have not talked about this much, or if at all, except for just saying that this is a story that's being reported, because I've not been able to verify in any piece of legislation that I've seen so far that this is actually the case. If we go out there and start reporting that all these things are true and they end up not being true, guess what? It hurts our cause. And I've already said many times on this podcast that it is an unfair double standard, that we are required to always act correctly. We are required to not manipulate anything. We are required to be truthful 100% of the time. We are required to be perfectly behave in every single situation whatsoever. But as soon as they lie, as soon as Trump tells a lie, Elon Musk says that not everything he says is going to be 100% accurate, as soon as any of that, they're like, oh, that's just them being them. We're going to give them a pass. But we don't get those passes whatsoever. So we have to make sure that everything that we're sharing is, as Mona Lisa Vito said and my cousin Vinny, 100% dead on balls accurate. Because otherwise, it's going to be giving them the ammunition to cause people to trust the media less and less. It's going to be giving them the ammunition to get away with more and more. Because the more they make us, the left side of the political spectrum, look like we're untrustworthy because we're just in a gut reaction, just sharing things that we don't know are 100% true, we're going to end up shooting ourselves in the foot, proverbially. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that's a possibility that Donald Trump may do this? Do you think he's already done this? Do you think I'm worrying about nothing? Or do you think this is something that really needs to be taken strongly into consideration? Leave your comments below. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and then, of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. Let's see. MJ Dana, very thankfully living in Washington right now. Everyone should be held to the standard. Everybody should be held to the same standards. Unfortunately, conservatives, Trump, and everybody just don't. We have a double standard in this society where if Donald Trump does anything, oh, that's just Trump being Trump. Oh, he didn't really mean what he said. And if he meant what if he really did, he didn't really say it. If he said it, it was joking. If he wasn't joking, it didn't mean what you took it to mean. If it did take it to mean what you mean, this is why you're wrong about why it's bad. Like, that's the whole thought process behind the MAGA conservative type folks. Everything the Republicans propose is a scam to stop people from being able to vote. That is also true. That is also very true. Kelly makes sense. He's probably already done this. Yeah, he probably has. But I can't say that he has because I don't have evidence of it. But I think it's reasonable to be concerned that this is something that he could absolutely do. And, you know, I don't necessarily think he's smart enough to come up with it on himself or by himself. Then again, it could fall under the whole, this is how he scams people, and as such, he is a good con man. And as such, he will know how to run the con, and he'll figure that out as the con. So even though he's not smart, he's still a con man and can figure out how to con people, especially the poorly educated that he says to love, that he loves 9 times out of 10 or more. And of course they're gonna, Lisa. Of course they will try and suppress voting. That's 100% even different thing. Now, of course, you know, they'll try other ways to suppress voting because the problem with the whole thing about like married women not being able to cast a ballot is that would affect Republican women too. And while there are Republican women and Republicans in general who are like making content that are basically saying, I voted for anti-immigration stuff. I didn't think that my husband was going to get fired, from his job because he works at the government. He's worked very hard. It's like, my husband is a veteran and he works very hard for this government. He risked his own life for in the military, and now he put his his career in the government, and now he's gonna lose his job because of that. This is what we voted for. Yes, it was, you dumbasses. Absolutely, 100%. Yes, it was exactly what you voted for. Why? Because we told you so. You just refused to believe us because your bigotry was more important than listening to common sense. So, anyway. Conald von Schitzen's pants. I just call him MAGA von Schitzen's pants, but Conald von Schitzen's pants might actually work too. So we'll see. Maybe he'll go with both. Maybe it's MAGA con Schitzen's pants. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's it. Yeah, Lisa, exactly. That one woman who came up with the song and who plays the ukulele, and now who got a choir backing her up now with the I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Oh, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. I love that song. It's a lovely little ditty that rings so true in today's society. So they want birth certificates for Democrats to vote, but death certificates for Republicans. Exactly. See, what was I going to do? Is that one? No, that's not the one I want. I want a different one. I want a different background. This one. Yes, this one. See, let's see. The last batch of moonshine I made is not good for some reason. It makes me walk funny. I wonder why that might be, Jeff. Wonder what in the moonshine could be making you walk funny. It's not how somebody else walks funny, though.
Oh, my.
Sorry. I mean, Impeccable Living should be coming around more often. So he could be here when I poke fun at his expense. Because we love Impeccable Living. Let's see. Let's make sure that I haven't missed anything in the chat. Yeah, Kelly, exactly. Lie to get us to spread false information. But it's not even that. It's not even lie to get us to spread false information. It's lie to get us to believe that that's what he's doing, attack him for it, and then they can be like, no, see, this is actually not true. This is actually what's going on, not what they're saying. That's what I'm concerned about. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get, Epoch Times and whatchamacallit, Epoch Times and OAAN or OANN or whatever it's called, Real America's Voice. You're going to have all those bogus BS news outlets at the press conferences, but you can't get the AP there for whatever reason because, Donald Trump doesn't want the AP covering them. Although they did say that, they do want to allow more independent media, like bloggers and stuff like that. So maybe I should try and get my press pass just to see if they do want more independent media folk types to be able to come in and cover the news. Wonder if that means also allowing liberal Dan, because I bet you it doesn't. Bet you it doesn't whatsoever. Let's see. And Nikki D, it's a distraction. Yes, I mean, everything's going to be a distraction. Everything that they're doing, they're throwing so much shit at the wall that everything that they do is done with the express intent to not let you see everything else that's going on. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. They're going to throw so much stuff out there that you're not going to be able to follow every single thing, which is, again, why we need to have more people who are creators, who are politically left creators, to be out there covering as much as we can, because we can't all cover every single thing individually. But if we work together, we can all cover everything as a group, as a team. So we need to get that crack, and we need to get, and in order for that to happen, we need to have all of the bases grow up. So we need to share everything, comment on everything, help the algorithm, because again, Al Gore, of course, always needs more rhythm. Let me take a sip of water first before starting the next recording. Trump needs to heed the words of Mr. T. He's a fool. I pity the fool. I pity the fool that make fun of my jewelry. See, I bought 3 Venom movies 2 weeks ago, and Dan reminded me I haven't watched them yet. Thanks, Dan. How did I do that? How did I manage to do that? Let's see, a second channel like the Midas Group. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to have a second channel. I'm just saying that, the Midas Group, we need everybody, all hands on deck, to be able to just push everything out there. I mean, I do want to have a second channel one time, but it's probably to talk about more sexual health issues than anything else. Just to have kind of a fun talk about those sort of things that won't put this channel at risk. Yeah, Steve Bannon calls it flooding the zone. Exactly, that's what they're going to do. And Donald Trump probably hears that and goes, "What? Flooding Pizzones? I love Pizzones. Whatever happened to the Pizzones? Make Pizzones great again, Pizza Hut." Let's see. Donald, the entire Oz crew in one being. No brain, no heart, no courage. And of course, well, guys, I don't know. Is Trump the man behind the curtain? Or is Musk the man behind the curtain? Or is Putin the man behind the curtain? Or maybe it's a combination of Musk and Putin? Who knows? So, yeah, Minus has 4 million subscribers. So he doesn't need his help. They don't need the help. But other people have more. And we need other people to have more as well. We need Boston Brian, Trucker John, Carbon, Dude, myself, Hal. Everybody needs to have more subscribers. 10 to 100 times what they currently have at this point. Lather, rinse, repeat. Just like shampoo. Although, with Donald Trump, the emphasis is on both the sham and the poo. Because everything he does is a sham, and he's full of crap. So, see, Musk and Thiel, the men behind the curtain. Also Thiel, yes. I always forget about Thiel, which I guess maybe Thiel might actually be the best behind the curtain, because he's the least spoken about in many circles. So, let's see. Let's talk about this a little. So, do you remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, during the Trump administration, like in the first few months or so, that we were talking about, he was up there, he'd be talking about stuff, and one of the things that he was concerned about was he believed that the cure can't be worse than the problem itself. He was concerned about shutdowns and making people, distance learn, making people work from home if possible, making sure that, we enabled it so that people would be able to socially distance and mask up and get vaccinated and do whatever it is that we need to do, even though the vaccines didn't come out till the very end of his presidency. He always told us that the cure couldn't be worse than the problem itself. But that's exactly what President Musk, Elon Musk, is doing. Nuclear workers. NBC News. Trump administration wants to unfire nuclear safety workers but can't figure out how to reach them. The workers whose agency oversees the nation's nuclear stockpile had been fired on Thursday and lost access to their federal government email accounts. National Nuclear Secretary Administration officials on Friday attempted to notify some employees who had been let go the day before that they are now due to be reinstated, but they struggled to find them because they didn't have their new contact information. In an email sent to employees at NNSA and obtained by NBC News, officials wrote the termination letters for some NNSA probationary employees are being rescinded. We do not have a good way to get in touch with those personnel. Well, how dumb are you? Again, as I said on the last show, as I'll continue to say, measure twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. They're not doing that. They're hacking everything to pieces and then seeing what ends up getting broken and then trying to put everything back together again. But Humpty Dumpty, after he had his great fall, couldn't be put back together again. Maybe their version of the nursery rhymes, whatever, that tell them that if somebody lies all the time, they should continue believing the lies, because what if they tell the truth one day? Just like that, their bad understanding of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, maybe they also have a bad understanding of Humpty Dumpty. And maybe their version, they heard, oh, all the king's horses and all the king's men put Humpty Dumpty back together as if nothing was wrong, no problem here, nothing to see here, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. The individuals the letter refers to had been fired on Thursday and lost access to federal government email accounts. NNSA, which is within the Department of Energy and oversees the nation's nuclear stockpile, cannot reach these employees directly and is now asking recipients of the email, please work with your supervisors to send this information to people's personal contact emails. Well, why were you dumb enough to fire them without making sure, A, that they weren't people you should fire, and B, without making sure that you had contact information just in case? But again, measure twice, cut once. They're not doing that. They're all going willy-nilly. Oh, we can just cut all these probationary people because they're not civil service, and as such, they're not protected by the requirements that are put forward for them. And since they didn't take the so-called deal that Donald Trump wanted them to take, instead they said, nope, since you're probationary, we can fire you because we feel like it. See you later. Have a good one. Now, would you want to go back to that administration? Would you want to be reinstated as a worker for the federal government underneath a person who just fired you because they're a freaking dumbass? I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to go back. I mean, I guess it's understandable that in a tough economy that you actually, might have to consider it, but why would you go back and then not immediately start looking for another job? Because that's what I would do. I would go back, but I would immediately start looking for another job. And if people ask me why I'm looking for another job, I'd be like, because I was let go one day, and then the next day I was unlet go, and I don't feel like I have a stable position here, so therefore I'm looking for something else a little more stable. But I don't know how anybody can feel stable working for Donald Trump's federal government either. But it's not just the nuclear workers. It's the farmers in USA Aid, for example. They cut all sorts of funding for all sorts of programs. And many of those programs, the funds to get the food to send people who needed the food were sent to American farmers. American farmers were doing the work to help fill the needs of these U.S. aid agencies. And so that money that would be spent went in part to domestic producers, domestic agriculture producers, etc. So now you're going to have food that is going to go bad, if they're fruit or vegetables, in the ground, on the trees, whatever. If they're already picked, they're going to go bad that way too. You can't can everything, right? especially if he has tariffs on all the materials that might be used to make cans. But the problem is not just the fact that you're cutting food that's needed to go to individuals who are starving. So your cuts are going to harm people. Again, as Donald Trump says, the cure can't be worse than the problem itself. So if the cure ends up killing hundreds of thousands of people because they can't get fed anymore because they relied on this program and no longer can get it, then the cure is absolutely going to be worse than the problem. But under the whole measure twice, cut once deal, they apparently didn't realize the fact that as they cut those programs, the funds are going to not go to the American farmers, who are now again going to be hurt by another one of Donald Trump's policies. The farmers were hurt back in his first term because he set up these tariffs, and the Chinese government that, China gets a lot of their soy from the United States, and they said, okay, we'll just get soy from somewhere else and retaliate against your horrible tariffs. And then Donald Trump had to take all of the money that was coming in via the tariffs and had to then give it to the farmers, or else they'd get screwed. But it's worse than that. What happens now? Now that they're not stable, now that these farmers know that this money can't be relied on to be, spent on their goods, they're going to cut production. If I was running a business and I felt like I had a bunch of money that was coming in that I could rely on coming in every single year to help, grow food for the starving people across the world, and the federal government is paying me to make sure that I could get that done, and now I'm relying on the federal government for that, and I don't know if the funds can come in, what else would I do except cut back on production? So if a farmer starts cutting back on production of what he produces, what's going to happen at that point? What if then Donald Trump decides to do another, mea culpa, instead of firing, the nuclear workers, we're now, and then having to reinstate them, maybe he'll be like, we made a mistake. We didn't mean to cut off these funds because we don't want to hurt the American farmer, so we're going to reinstate these programs to make sure that the American farmers can be paid. But of course, where's the food going to go if they do that? But still, how long is it going to take the American farmer to ramp back up their production to be able to meet the needs that they were already fulfilling under U.S. aid before? Because I guarantee you, it's not going to be able to be done, just like this. Once they stop, budgeting for, having additional farm hands or anybody else working for those farmers, once they have to cut back and scale back on who they employ, scale back their operations because they no longer could afford to make as much and produce as much as they would normally produce because they're not having the USAID money coming in. And then if they come back and say, we made a mistake, let's start this program again, you're not going to be able to start it again immediately. It's going to take time. And in that time it takes to, re-up themselves, more people are going to die. And we tried to tell you here on Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right, and various other left-wing, leaning, progressive, liberal, etc. policies or podcasts. We tried to tell you that Donald Trump's policies would be harmful like this. But y'all wouldn't believe us. And now you're finding out. You're in the find out phase. What else? What else? Who else can Donald Trump administrations kill with their policies or allow to die with their policies? In Umzimklulu, if I pronounced that incorrectly, I'm sorry, South Africa, a rural village in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, unemployed 19-year-old Nazuku Majola is trying to figure out if she has enough money for a 1-hour ride to collect her much-needed HIV medication because, guess what? These USA aid cuts have basically made it so that these clinics have to now shut their doors. Majola is one of millions of patients in South Africa affected by U.S. President Donald Trump's global foreign freeze on aid, raising worries about HIV patients defaulting on treatment, infection rates going up, and eventually a rise in deaths. In 2024, think tank Human Sciences Research Council released figures showing that Majolo's province recorded the second highest HIV prevalence in the country at 16%, with at least 1,300 young people estimated to contract the disease every week. Every week, 1,300 young people get HIV. It's not that this province has 1,300 overall cases. They get 1,300 cases per week. And Donald Trump, by rescinding all this funding that would be cut from USAID, is now going to cause these people to be more at risk of death because they can't get access to the medicine that they so surely need. And of course, we've already seen in the United States that there are employers who are trying to demand that they not have to cover PrEP to prevent HIV transmission or to prevent it from infecting you after being exposed to it, that they shouldn't have to cover all these other drugs because, it's only a gay disease or whatever, like they said in the 80s, because apparently we've reverted back to the 80s. But, even though they feel that way, there are lots of heterosexual folks who have HIV, especially in these areas, that are now going to be put more at risk. I mean, it used to be that HIV was a death sentence. Now, with the proper medication, it doesn't have to be. You can live a full life while taking these drugs, but you have to take these drugs. And if you don't take the drugs, you're more likely than not to suffer the consequences of getting HIV. I'm not saying it's a consequence, is something you ask for, because nobody asked to get that. But still, many, many more people are going to die because of this action. And this is not going to be an exhaustive list of ways that people are going to die because Donald Trump and his bad decisions and President Musk's bad decisions and the fact that they refuse to measure twice, cut once, to help make sure that any cuts that are done reasonably and responsibly. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't cut unnecessary spending from government. I'm all for cutting unnecessary spending in government. I'll always use the example of the tanks and jets that our Congress buys and pays for, and basically approves money to go to their campaign contributors, i.e. the people in the military-industrial complex, and then they just sit on a tarmac. They sit in a parking lot. They're never used because the military doesn't want these damn things. That's fraud, waste, and abuse right there. It's a very easy one to cut. But they're not going to do it. Why? Because they want to pay back the military-industrial complex. They want to make sure to be able to invest in those, I guess, to be able to keep earning their millions and billions of bucks. They're just not going to stop doing that. But they're going to cut off funding for food grown by American farmers that go to starving people across the world. They're going to cut off funding to AIDS medicine to people who are suffering across the world. And again, more people are going to die unnecessarily because of Donald Trump and his irresponsibility, and Elon Musk and his irresponsibility, and again, their refusal to just measure twice before cutting. Because look, at the end of the day, you should always measure twice before cutting, even if it's pertaining to carpentry, if it's pertaining to budgets, and especially if it's pertaining to circumcision. Always measure twice, so you'd only have to cut once. Anyway, what do you think? Agree, disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. And of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. So yeah. Leah said they're coming after Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security tax. Oh, absolutely. And as more and more people get harmed by his bad actions, it's going to be more and more difficult for individuals to be able to actually, justify their support for Donald Trump. Hell, I asked Jeff Cruer about this the other day. I have not received a response yet. I could always look real quick and see if he sent an email yet responding to my email. But no, I have not received a response back from old Jeff Cruer on this, because I was surprised that he hadn't heard about this post. that Donald Trump made on Truth Social. I'm trying to go dig it up and find it real quick. I had a screenshot of it on my Facebook page or whatever, but I want to, again, just like, when I saw this posting on so-called Truth Social, when I saw this posting, I didn't believe it to be true. I thought it was plausible. It was plausible that he tweeted this out, or that he truthed this out, or that he posted this on Truth, or whatever you want to call it. I thought it was plausible that this is one thing that he would absolutely say or do. However, because I didn't have evidence of it yet, I needed to go look, unfortunately, on Truth Social to try and, figure out if he actually really did say what he said. And of course, Donald Trump absolutely did say this particular thing. I have the call-in number there, but don't call in yet. All right, here we go. He who saves his country does not violate any law. That's what Donald Trump said on his Truth Social platform. Of course, I don't have an account on there. Screw them. I'm not going to do that. But I didn't want to, sit there and report this, that he was actually supporting this garbage, until I could actually confirm that it was on his own Truth Social website, that it wasn't somebody manipulating it. It wasn't somebody trying to make it look like he was saying this Napoleon-themed and also Nazi-type themed and Mussolini-type theme. Basically, there are many examples of dictators throughout the years who have absolutely said either this or something similar to this to justify their bad behavior as leader, despot, what have you. Absolutely examples of this. Again, there's questions in my research as to whether or not Napoleon actually really said this or not, but Donald Trump doesn't care. He also reposted somebody else's more artistic-looking version of the "He who saves his country does not violate any law." But can you just imagine how dangerous that is? Do you imagine just how dangerous it is to basically say that this statement should be said by anybody who has the reins of power in government? I mean, that's pure despot, pure dictator, pure whatever, like no following the rule of law. To him, there is no law as long as you so-called save the country. But how define saving the country? What does that mean? Because we all know what that means for Donald Trump. Make America great again basically is make America white again. Make America stupid again. Make America uneducated again. Who knows what else Donald Trump might want to come up with that he hasn't already said that he's going to do. But he is going to use that line of thought to justify many illegal things. And we won't be able to subpoena any communications pertaining to those illegal things so that we can go after him after the presidency. Why? Because the Supreme Court said all of his communications are privileged. Boom, done. No caveats, no excuses, no whatever. Anything that he communicates from his office to anybody else within his executive branch is seen as being, not touchable by any sort of subpoena. It's privileged information, which is basically the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump a loaded gun and saying, do whatever you want with it, go to Times Square, murder somebody, we're not going to give a crap about it. You can do whatever it is you want. There you go. Have fun, Donald Trump. Anyway, what do you think? Did you see this post on Truth Social from Donald Trump? Do you think it's dangerous for him to do this? Do you agree with him at all? Why are you watching this channel if you agree? But, hey, I'm more than welcome dissent on the channel. But again, please make sure to leave your comments down below, like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and of course, as always, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. Let's see. That's almost sovereign citizen rhetoric. It almost is, except in reality, it's almost a little bit of the reverse of it, because the sovereign citizen believes that there's no country over them. he's saying that he is a country. He's just saying that if you're, quote, saving the country, it's not criminal. Whatever it is you do. If he thought that he could walk up to somebody and grab him by the hoo-ha and that was part of saving the country, it's legal, according to him. Right? See, Dean Becker, keep hoping General Milley runs for POTUS. We need a militant approach to deal with Donald. I mean, there is the other military option that took place in Egypt that prevented a pure old despot from, I guess, keeping or retaining power or whatever. Remember the guy that threw his shoes at George W? Wonder if they put him back on before they took him out or kept him for evidence. Maybe. Yeah, Dean, very Hitlerian. Yes, it's a good word, Hitlerian. Bad person, good word. Yes, Napoleon ended bad too, of course. See, Big Hook. Keith Olbermann Countdown said to use that quote, that saving the country was not illegal, so if we save the U.S. from Trump, it is not illegal. That is also a point that I was going to make, and I probably should have included that in my video. But yes, anything we do as Americans to save our country is 100% legal. Anything that we do. Of course, I can't say anything that could be done, or everything that could be done, because that necessarily wouldn't be taken well by certain people. So I'm not advocating for those illegal activities. But then again, as he said, is it really illegal if you're saving the country? And that's one of the reasons why I said it was very dangerous for him to say. I posted it to my personal Facebook page first, and I was like, this is a very dangerous thing for him to say. I didn't say why. I knew the people on my Facebook page would be smart enough to realize why it was a very dumb thing for him to say. Not just dangerous for the fact that, it basically justifies him doing anything he wants to and, under the guise of saving the country, but that also gives other people the justification to do that too, which, in my opinion, would put him at risk from people who would do those things. So, anyway. If people drop like flies, there won't be any to land on Pence's head. Very, very well played, Dean. Very well played. Anyway, let's go ahead. Let's shut the volume off real quick on there. Turn off the Do Not Disturb. And we will bring up the call-in numbers. Call-in, Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. If you are a progressive, liberal, left-leaning person and you want to have a chit-chat with me, rant, give your own little rant, say your own share of things, whatever it is, you are free to do so, especially if you're Big Hook, because we always love having Big Hook call into the show. And also, if you're a conservative, if you're watching the show, if you're a conservative, if you're watching the show after hours, I usually leave the calls as to on, Do Not Disturb. So I don't know if that allows you to leave a message or not. It probably does. But you're more than welcome to leave a call if you want, and I'll respond to it if you're not too potty-mouthed, or if you're not too ridiculous, or if you're not, just using my platform to try and spread Nazi rhetoric. But then again, I do welcome conservatives to call in all the time, debate me, try and prove me wrong, try and explain to me why you think it's okay for our president to say he who saves his country does not violate any law. Justify that. Back that up. Back that ass up. Not in the way that the song says, but, Trump is an ass. Try and back him up. See. Let's see. We need an army of Luigis in Minecraft. Probably, unfortunately, Donald Trump and Elon Musk hear Minecraft and think it's some sort of Nazi thing. Some Nazi arts and crafts time or whatever. Does anybody want to go first, or should I? Hey, look, if you want to call it, if you want dibs, 562-542-3261. I'm sure you have it saved in your phone already, right, Big Hook? So I probably don't have to tell it to you because you could just hit redial. But anyway, but anybody can absolutely go ahead and give a ringy-dingy and call into the show. Rant, give your own little rants, share your information, share any other things. If you have suggestions on what songs I should use to sing the news to, that's actually something that I should probably look for, because I think singing the news might be fun. We'll see. Yeah, exactly. Minecraft. Ja, jawohl, it's Minecraft. It is Minecraft, yeah. Let's hold on. I need to go down here. I'm getting better at that, where I don't even have to listen to the whole name. How are you doing, Big Hook?
Hanging in there. Wanted to bring something up that David Feldman brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that it's funny that we're in this big mess because all the billionaires and the rich millionaires have taken the monopoly principle and completely bankrupt all opportunities for other people.
Right.
And now they basically want to cut the social safety net that became necessary because of the devices that we have not enforced to allow them to become super duper rich.
Mm-hmm.
But now, on top of that, they're going to cut the services so that way we can give them a tax break. Now, what will they do with that tax break?
Oh well, they'll tell us
up.
that it's trickle down economics. It'll go to all the workers, but we all know that's false. Go ahead.
Okay, but here's what'll happen.
Stock
they'll go
buybacks.
up and they'll do the stock buybacks. They will go and take all the people that go into foreclosure because they can't pay their mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
But what David Feldman brought in was another perspective that I hadn't thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, these guys will watch the debt grow, and then they will buy treasury bonds,
Mm-hmm.
which means that they will get paid interest for taking advantage of everything else that is there and screwing over everyone else. So we are rewarding them for screwing everyone else on top of what they are all over all the privilege that they currently have.
Right.
Which just angers me even more because it's like, it's a game you cannot win.
Well,
They have fixed
Donald
the
Trump
game
talks
to
about
the point where
Donald Trump talks about a rigged system, but Donald Trump has always taken advantage of the rigged system because, you and I, the peons of the world, we have debts. We're expected to pay our debts. I have a medical expense that I shouldn't have to pay because during the time the person who insured me at the time basically said, you should not be paying this. It's their mistake. But they're still coming after me for this payment, and I'm refusing to pay. I basically gave them a cease and desist the other day. But yeah, I mean, I can have these debts held against me, and if I risk, if I would ever declare bankruptcy, I risk losing my house potentially. If the house has too much value as compared to what you can pay or whatever, there are some rules around bankruptcy that allow you to keep your house if it's a 7 and not an 11. But still, but all these other people, they get corporations. They put all of their stuff in corporations and abuse the tax code that way.
And LLCs,
Well, LLC is basically a limited liability corp. It's a corporation. It's just limited. It's just not a C corp. It's a pass through type entity. But the end of the day is they can just do whatever it is they want to do and let their little LLC go bankrupt. Meanwhile, they cash out, make money, lather, rinse, repeat. So they get to take advantage of the situation. Meanwhile, we all get screwed. And now the Trump administration is talking about now allowing people to put debts back on your credit reports. Because they used to prevent medical debt from being on your credit report, or that was what was supposed to happen. But now that Donald Trump's president, now this medical debt that I have, this $275, even I shouldn't have to pay. If I don't pay it, it can now ding my credit and make me less likely to become, successful in the future, because now I'm fighting an uphill battle against the rigged credit card scoring system, which is also a ridiculous system, simply because of the fact that if you have like $20,000 in overall credit card debt, and let's say you're holding $5,000 and it's across 4 different cards or whatever, and let's say one of your credit card companies that's maybe worth $5,000 goes, okay, well we don't feel that you've done enough business for us, so we're going to close your credit card. We're going to close this down, and you no longer have this available credit, which now makes your overall debt to your available credit worse, which then makes your credit score go down based off of nothing you've done, but a decision they've made. So they control the system, they control how everything works, and they basically are able to screw us over 7 different ways from Sunday. And Donald Trump wants to get rid of the consumer finance, whatever board for consumers that would, used to look out for, or at least try to look out for the peons as much as possible. So Mida says, I'm no peon. I'm like, well, so I do feel peed on from the Trump administration every now and then because of their horrible ideas. But I don't believe myself a peon, but I'm saying that they look at us as peons. Anyway, go ahead. Wait, hold on. I think, did you hit mute? Because I'm not hearing you anymore. There you go. Now I hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, they get to pick the winners and the losers, and they're going to win every single time. It's a fixed horse race, and the odds are always in their favor. At this point, I don't see how they can fix the system because, they write the laws, they bought the judges, they control the credit that's available to you. They run the banks. I mean, unless you guys are going to start all over again with credit unions, I just don't see how you can fix the system currently.
Hell, I had a credit union and it went defunct. My credit union that I had went defunct. It had to be bought out by a different one. I had an account with that credit union since I was like 6 months old in New York City. But hey, as Donald says, you probably won't hear this.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald.
Texas Paul was saying as well that he's looking at as soon as they get rid of the FDIC, he said he's going to put all of his money either in a British bank account or he's going to put it in a German bank account because there's no guarantee that these guys won't do a run and say, oh, we don't have the assets to cover it, and then you lose all your money.
Right.
And I mean, this is the other threat that's going on. This is the dystopia future they warned us about coming to fruition at an accelerated speed because Trump is in power and he is a manure factory. He's throwing so much stuff out there that you can't pay attention to what he's doing in the back
right.
behind the curtain,
Yep.
And I really worry about you guys because I don't see anything good coming from this man anytime in the near future. He talks a good pitch, but none of it ever comes to fruition, and he refuses to accept any responsibility. And
that's terrible.
I mean,
speaking of the FDIC, like if you're looking at Project 2025, which I've linked to a copy of it on liberaldan.com. One of the things that they did when putting information in Project 2025 about what they want to do about the FDIC, they didn't use the initials FDIC. As you see up here, I've highlighted it. It's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation is how they use it. So you can't just search the document for FDIC and find it. You have to do it this way. And Project 2025 believes improved financial regulation. It includes merging functions. The new administration should establish a more streamlined bank and supervision by supporting legislation to merge the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the National Credit Union Administration, and the Federal Reserve's non-monetary supervisory and regulatory functions. So, they make it harder for you to find because you have to know how to search for it. Furthermore, they want to supposedly streamline stuff, but what does that really mean? That means probably taking away the teeth from anything, and then once you restructure everything, you can also renegotiate or legislate what their responsibilities are, and as you say rightly, what they can protect. And it was only mentioned like 3 times in Project 2025, and one of them is just a footnote. But basically, we are going to be in the situation where if they eliminate the FDIC, there's no reason to put, your money in American bank, because guess what? There's no, it's harmful, because you're putting your life savings potentially at risk, and that's going to harm many banks, simply because if everyone starts pulling all their money out the banks, then the banks are going to start panicking. So again,
but the other danger is that the billionaires will haul all their money out beforehand, and you will be left holding the bag.
That's also true.
And this is the thing, because Peter Thiel did that before with the Silicon Bank. Remember?
Right.
And he basically did that, and he basically forced a run on it, and without Biden there to say, oh, well, we'll pay out the FDIC insurance to all those who, up to the certain limit, to those who had money in the bank and got left holding the bag.
Right.
They would have been, shit out of luck. But that's my concern right now is that you guys are going to get hit sideways with no warning. And, I don't see many options other than getting rid of Trump really, really fast. And same thing with J.D. Vance. I mean, he's going to do the same thing.
Right.
He's on the same page as Peter Thiel. So it's not just Trump you got to get rid of. It's all the Republicans that you got to get rid of, because they're all bought and paid for, and they're all running the same playbook, which is basically to fuck you guys all over. Excuse my language, but
no problem.
There's no other way to put it. You guys are screwed and tattooed, property of Trump Incorporated. It's not a pleasant thing for me to say, but that's what I see right now.
Well, I mean, we're just like, what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. All the people that, think that Lucy's going to, eventually hold the football for them so they can kick it, are all the people who also are gullible enough to believe that, trickle-down economics works, to believe Donald Trump's lies, to believe that he actually wants to make America supposedly great, etc. So, it's very problematic. And, we can't trust Vance, even if we thought Vance was at some point minorly better than Trump. I could probably think that maybe he wouldn't grab people by the hoo-ha like Trump would. But even then, he is somebody who said, 4 years ago or a little more, that Donald Trump was America's Hitler. And now he's all chummy, buddy with America's Hitler. So if you call somebody America's Hitler,
Vance only got in because Peter Thiel gave him $13 million so that way he could buy the Senate seat.
Right.
I mean, that's what ended up happening, So, I mean, it's not like we can say, oh, well, Vance doesn't owe anybody anything. It's like, yes, he's completely bought and paid for. I'm sorry. There's no other way to look at it. He owes everything that he has to Thiel. Thiel gave him his first couple of jobs where the ex-employer said, oh, he basically did absolutely nothing. He's a big talker, but a big nothing when it comes to actually doing anything that makes money or protects the company that they're in. I mean, I don't know. You guys aren't enforcing the laws. And like I said the last time, Obama and Biden both did the wrong thing. They didn't basically charge Trump as well as Bush. And, you could have cut this stuff in, at an earlier stage and brought law and order and reinstated rules and stopped the anti-monopolization of the U.S., where you have so few options. It's only Walmart, Target, Amazon, and, whatever else is out there. But, I mean, you have, 3 grocery chains that you have to deal with? I mean, there's zero competition in any sector within the U.S. right now. I mean, you guys are at the mercy of what they decide and dictate. And, you know, I mean, it's scary times. Everybody warned and everybody said something, and nobody stepped up to the plate to enforce stuff. And I mean, what's happening now that Trump's in? I'm sure that anti-monopoly suit against Bezos is gone now, because I'm sure Bezos has probably made a backroom deal with Trump to say, I'll give you a whole bunch of money
Probably.
if you'll make this go away. You know, I mean,
I'm waiting for the merger of Twitter and Truth Social, because that would be another way for for Elon Musk to funnel a lot of money to Donald Trump, or maybe vice versa. Who knows? Who knows how it would work, or who knows who would get the better end of that deal? But it would just be another way for Donald Trump to pivot his presidency to be able to just enrich himself even more, and probably in a much quicker way than forcing all of the people who work for the government when they're on vacation as much as possible to stay at Trump resorts instead of, the most affordable
he's already
option.
run the meme. He's already run the meme coins scam already, and hit all of his followers with that one. I mean, there's nothing that this man won't do to steal money from anybody that will look at him. And
well, the meme coins and the T-shirts or the whatever, or the Bibles and the watches and everything else that he sells that are not officially part of his campaign, I'm convinced that those are just ways that he's figured out how to get paid by foreign oligarchs and foreign wealthy people in circumventing campaign finance laws, and basically being able to get money from these people. And then we even saw on the Trump Watch website that it wasn't a promise to actually deliver a watch. Like, it was just a concept of a watch. So when you had Trump's watches, there was no guarantee to follow through if you paid him. But that's what I'm convinced that's not a bug, that's a feature, because it's still allowing foreign governments, foreign people who normally couldn't contribute to political campaigns. It will then allow them to send money his way so they can buy influence and curry favor with MAGA von Schitz's pants. So,
yeah, but as much as I like Jon Stewart and then hate him at the same time, he brings about a good point, which is that we have refused to enforce the laws. We allow them to write the laws,
right?
And then we allow these people into power who don't represent the people. They represent the people that put them in office, which are the billionaires and the millionaires, who basically are the ones who decide how society should be run. So, I mean, you can call it, effectively, I think you guys have been living under an oligarchy for the last 25 odd years, with the exception of a little bit higher tax rates from Obama and through Biden. I mean, I don't see how you guys are going to be able to survive, because once the social safety net is completely pulled out from underneath you, you're going to have 75 million Americans that are going to be homeless and looking for a handout, and right. You're not going to be in any better position than they are to be able to help them, because you're going to be thinking, how do I help my friend when I have to save my own neck and my own children from poverty and destitution. I mean, it's just.
I mean, you're going to have swaths of people being let go from the federal government. The federal government employs a whole bunch of people, and then what's going to happen to these unemployment systems are going to go broke because they're going to have to pay too many people at once, since they're not, the smart way to go about reducing the size of government is via attrition. Like, if you really want to reduce the size of government, you do it via attrition. You just wait for you wait for people to resign or move on, and then you don't replace the job if you don't think the job is required. But he's too dumb to know that, or he doesn't care, or or worst case scenario, he just is purposely destabilizing our country for folks like Putin or whatever. But one of the things that you brought up earlier is, like, Obama and Biden not, taking the actions and on, criminally speaking. And while I know Obama and Biden they often wanted to do the hands-off approach to when it comes to the Department of Justice, i.e. allow the Department of Justice to do their thing and not micromanage it, unlike what Trump clearly wants to do. But the thing is let me finish.
The DOJ is majority Republican, so you can't say, "Oh, we're going to do hands off," and then it's like, well, you just handed the keys to the party that doesn't really believe in law and order, or the rich play by a different set of rules than the rest of us. So, it's pointless. I mean, you can put in an attorney general, but then he has to basically force them to actually do the job that is necessary to make it a fair, level playing field.
Right.
Which is the problem that I have. You can't say, "Oh, Republicans are good people. They just," it's like, no, they aren't. They have benefited from the system, and they will continue to benefit from the system because there's nothing in it for them to create a level playing field for the rest of us to get ahead.
And not all of them will benefit from the system, though. But just like the people who were the poor Confederate whites who were convinced to fight for the right of Southern slave owners that they might also one day become successful enough to be able to own a slave, and they don't want these northern aggressors to try and tell them otherwise. These people are the same.
Millionaires in waiting.
Yeah, these people are the same thing. They believe that they one day could become a millionaire or billionaire, and gosh darn it, they don't want to have to lose all the profits via taxes. So they're going to make sure that billionaires and millionaires now don't have to pay those taxes, in the hopes that one day they'll be that rich too. But one of the things, like with Biden, one of the things I criticized Biden on, early on, even I think during the Obama presidency, was Biden came in as vice president, going to be president of the Senate. He came in thinking that he was going to be hanging out with a bunch of his old friends. He used to get along. He'd eat lunch in the Senate cafeteria with his fellow senators, and he would just be able to fix everything because, oh, lordy, these are all my friends. My good buddy Mitch, my good buddy Lindsey, my good buddy everybody who he happens to disagree with almost everything politically, but they'll get along and play nicey nice and have lunch together. I guess he didn't realize the fact that they had taken away the Senate cafeteria because people stopped using it, because that whole tradition of people just fighting on the issues but then getting along after the fact was long gone. Same thing here. Biden. Well, hold on, let me finish. Let me finish that, because before I forget my point, train of thought. Biden, as a traditionalist, is somebody who wants to honor and upkeep and maintain traditions of not doing of how we used to do things. The problem is that also pertains to, like, for example, if the Supreme Court tells Biden, oh, we don't believe that you can choose to stop spending funds that were appropriated by Congress, and Biden goes, okay, well, I am now forced to continue building this wall because Congress passed the bill, passed the legislation, passed the budget that now requires these line items to be spent specifically on building the wall. So therefore, my hands are tied. I have to now build at least part of the wall with these funds. That being said, now we have Donald Trump. Donald Trump is having rulings made against him, and he is not going to believe. He is not a traditionalist. He doesn't believe in following everything, the way things used to be done. He is a chaos bringer. He is somebody who wants to tear down everything and, rule over the ashes. But Problem is that, that then comes if the courts then tell him, you're not allowed to not spend this money on these things, because just like with what we told Biden, you also have to spend these things on spend the money on these USAID things because that's what it was appropriated for. And he'll be like, nope, make me. And then how are they going to make them? Once you have somebody in that office who is unwilling to respect the authority of the other co-equal branches of government, that's when you basically end up getting a dictatorship. That's when you end up having, one branch being greater than the others, and that's what Donald Trump is hoping he can get away with, is that he is going to hope that nobody is going to call him on that. Nobody's going to step up and say, you know what, the courts ruled, yet you have to do this. Because what force does the courts have? Do the courts have over people who refuse to follow the basically traditions of this country that basically say, court says something, you follow it? What are our options at that point? I don't know what options we have at that point, because if he's not going to listen to the judicial branch and what they rule on, then that really is going to give him carte blanche to do whatever it is he wants to do. And the only way to stop it is get impeachment legally. The only way to stop it legally is impeachment, unless you believe in what Donald Trump tweeted or truthed out or whatever it's called, posted on Truth Social, that anything to save the country is never a crime. So there's that. Anyway, going full circle. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys haven't had bipartisanship since Newt Gingrich and the Tea Party. And the other problem is that the Republicans are basically, they're Trump's bitch at this point, because they are afraid to lose their cushy jobs, so they don't do anything anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many of them could look their children in the face and said, "Oh, I believe that RFK and Tulsi and Kash Patel were good candidates for these positions"? I mean, it's the cynical part is over. We know that they're basically bought and paid for. They don't want to do the job. They don't belong there anymore. I mean, Congress is now basically a throughway for Trump to do whatever he wants. And unless, let's face it, probably the next thing that Trump has on his plate is, how do I make sure that the next election coming up in 2 years doesn't happen?
Right.
Or
either that or it's rigged. Either that or rigged.
Or it's rigged.
Yeah.
Everything is, open, and it's, the only way he's going to be able to continue is to lie, cheat, and get away with as much as he possibly can. And let's face it, the amount of money that this guy is stuffing in his coffers will allow him to walk away. He'll claim a health concern and say, "Oh, I'm unable to whatever," and then he will be able to retire on his golf course with, enough money to, do whatever for the next 3 generations. I mean, then if his kids want to get involved in politics from that point on, although who knows? I think Jared is probably thinking he's either going to go to either Saudi Arabia or
Gaza
Israel and develop the Strip. Exactly.
Yeah. Develop the Strip, get rich off of, our efforts to take it. And as Donald Trump said the other day, he said the other day that the Palestinian folks won't come back to Gaza because they'll have better places somewhere else, which, is just, again, what we were saying the entire time. Anybody who's sitting there as a Muslim who thought that Donald Trump was going to be no worse than Joe Biden was, finding out now that they were 100% absolutely wrong and whatever. But on the election issue, there's the issue of the fact that, it already is technically rigged even before Donald Trump got there, because in order for the Democrats to win the House of Representatives, they have to get many, many, many more votes than the Republicans would need for them to win the House of Representatives. Because of gerrymandering. Because of gerrymandering.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
and then, as I've said before on the show, if you the conservatives love to talk about the founding fathers and what the founding fathers said, what the founding fathers did, all the intent of the founding fathers that they might have. Well, the intent with the Electoral College was, and the Senate in and of itself, the largest state and the smallest state, when you take into consideration the 3/5 compromise, like Virginia, which was the most populous state and was only about 11 times the population of the smallest states of like Rhode Island and Delaware. So that was only about 11 times the population back in the 1790s, back when that first census came out or whatever. Nowadays, the smallest and largest populous state is like 68 times. California, I think, is 68 times the population of Wyoming. And as such, I don't think the founding fathers could have ever imagined such a disproportionate, split between the highest populous state and the lowest populous state. And then that creates a natural gerrymandering because you allowed these states to become states with such small levels of population that you're giving the people in those small red states, and they're mostly red, undue weight in the Senate as well. So in order for the Democrats to actually control Congress, you have to move mountains. But in order for the Republicans to win Congress, you basically don't. As former Louisiana Governor Edwin Edwards is cited as saying, like, he always said the only way that they'll get him is if they caught him in bed with a live boy or a dead girl. And that's pretty much the same thing. And he was a Democrat back in the day, but he was also corrupt AF. But same thing. The Republicans can back a 34-time convicted felon and can back insurrection and could do all this crap, and yet they still have an advantage in both the House and the Senate. So and then you have to hope that the Democrats can run a good campaign, and well, how many times have they failed?
Yeah, it's I think it's gotten to the point where if the next election comes out and Trump is still in power or not have his hands tied with having to have to deal with Congress, I think people are going to think long and hard about separating, and there will either be a civil war or you guys are going to basically say, I'm sorry, we can't live together anymore. It's time for a divorce. You guys take the South, we'll take the North. You guys figure out how to feed yourselves, and we'll do what's necessary to feed ourselves. And you can live you can live your principles and your way of life, and we'll just join the rest of the world and do whatever. I don't know what they'll do with the military, but because at this point, I mean, let's face it, the military has basically been the safeguard for world trade. They're the ones that patrol the seas and make sure that all the pirates and whatnot don't hijack everything that comes out of these countries and sustains them and everything else. And I mean, China obviously isn't capable of doing that, and Lord knows we don't want Russia taking that role. So, I don't know what.
Hold on.
I would love to be an optimist, but I hate to say it. I'm a realist. I see things the way they are and how they're going, and what do you do with this sandwich that you've been given?
Not eating it, that's for damn sure. But yeah, like, you can't have Russia take over the patrolling of the waters, because how are they going to do it? Like, we as the United States have I think 8 active carrier groups at this point, and each of our carrier groups combined has more firepower than the rest of the world's navies combined. The Russians only had one aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov, and that is no longer in operation. And I think it was even like a coal. I don't even think it was a nuclear one. I think it was
it fell. Yeah, got on fire, and I think the Chinese have the other one, which has a huge crack in the middle of it. And I mean, effectively, the U.S. is the only one U.S., Britain. I think France has an aircraft carrier as well. I think those are the only ones that currently.
But,
Right now,
meanwhile, the Republicans make a big stink. Oh, our military is being caught flat-footed because China has more ships than we do. Of course, they're counting when they count the hulls. They're counting every single hull as being equal, i.e., an aircraft carrier is equal to a dinghy. Like an aircraft carrier is equal to a patrol boat. That is the same number of vessels, comparatively speaking. Meanwhile, one of our aircraft carriers could absolutely just demolish large swaths of patrol boats and solve that problem immediately. So the idea that we were ever at risk for not being the most powerful. Go ahead.
But this is the problem. We entertain these idiot Chicken Littles who proclaim the sky is falling and trickle down economics is the way forward, and certain people deserve to vote and other people don't, and we are purveyors of free speech. Granted, it's hate speech, but it's free speech. I don't know what to say. The idiocracy is here. It's been here for the last 30 or 40 years now. I mean, right from Reagan on, or even from as back as Nixon. It's just been a party of corrupt people who have constantly moved forward. I mean, Rachel Maddow had to go way back into Ultra to reveal these people who, are the ugliest thing in American history, and we keep ignoring it and not calling it out and putting a light on it to they say sunshine is the greatest disinfectant, but none of these guys ever see the light of day because they operate in the shadows, and people operate on the greed principle now rather than ethics. Yep. And it's very frustrating because most of us are just barely hanging on by the skin of our teeth, and we can't. We're thinking long term. Am I going to be able to retire? And most of us are going, I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Same.
A crash in the market and your 401 is gone. Companies don't offer pensions anymore. So your only other option is pray that you don't lose your job before your mortgage is paid off, because that's your only asset that can possibly carry you for possibly 10, maybe 15 years. That's it. Right. So,
and even that, and like the 401k thing is just bizarre, because back when I had a on the over the air radio shows, Dan and Dave on the air, talk from the left. That's right, because I came up with that little slogan. But with we discussed with somebody way back in the day about how they started, and one of the 401ks were never supposed to be for us. The 401ks were never supposed to replace pensions. They were just supposed to be additional means for wealthy people to hide more of their income and make it, make their current income less taxable, and delay taxation on other income as it comes out of their 401k accounts. It was another way for people who are rich to abuse the system with their own money. But then they figured out a way to abuse the system with other people's money, in that back when the stock market was high, what they did, I forget the name of the country. I think it might have been Occidental is the name of the company that did it. Let's see, 401k scam or whatever. But what had happened was they basically had a huge amount of money available in their pension plan, and they wanted to be able to find a way to get at it. And because they couldn't just take it, because it was part of the pension plan, what they did was they said, okay, we are going to split up the pension plan and take everybody's amount of money that they would have, towards their liabilities in the future, and then we're going to roll that money into a into your own 401k accounts that you'll be able to do wonderful things with. Then, of course, the market tanked afterwards, and people lost a whole bunch of money. Meanwhile, since the businesses were able to cash out, they were able to get hundreds of millions of dollars for themselves simply because of the fact that they were able to, cash in when the market was high. And they abused their own employees to be able to enrich themselves. And that's why pensions have gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah, but that's like USA now stands for U.S. or United Scamsters of America, because the problem is that the rich hold over 90% of the Wall Street holdings. And as a result, they can crash the market at any point in time, and they can take all your money from your 401k and leave you holding the bag. And then all of a sudden, another Democratic president will come in and say, oh, we have to bail out the banks and this and that and the auto workers and whatever else. Oh, and the oil industry, we have to give them a whole whack of subsidies and get the economy rolling again. Mm-hmm. And guess what happens? They all go and they buy back in really cheap, and they run the scam again. It's a constant flow. They wait 20 years, and then they crash the economy again, and then they do it again, and then they do it again. And,
Sorry, I had to whisper something to my son. Sorry.
Well, they keep running the scam over and over again. Every 10 to 15 years, they crash the economy, and they sell out at the highest rate, and then they buy back in cheap, and they take all the people with the 401ks and everything else and wait for it to get super duper high, and then they pull all their money out, crash the stock market, and it's the same thing again. The Democrats have to come in and clean it all up, and they have to say, oh, we have to bail out the banks, the auto workers, the oil industry, healthcare, the hospitals, and once again, you end up further in debt. And then now it's the other way around now, because then they will go and take all that money and buy the treasury bonds and then reap the rewards from our suffering. I mean, it's a never-ending cycle.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. This is why I keep harping about the Scandinavian countries have it right. Everyone pays super duper high taxes. Everybody gets taken care of. This selfishness ethics code that everybody within the Republican ranks lives under is horseshit. It doesn't work, and everybody gets their turn in the barrel where they get screwed. And
and not in a good way.
Yeah, I know. And this is the thing. We know now what the game is. We know who the players are, and yet we continue to play nice with them.
Yep.
And I just don't understand it anymore. The world doesn't make any sense to me anymore, because the good are supposed to inherit the earth, and that's not the case.
Well, we have the playbook. We know the playbook. We saw the playbook going down. We already knew what they were doing. We saw them lining up 8 in the box to try and run the ball, and we're out here defending the pass, to use a football slogan or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then these people, again, Donald Trump, again, I always say this over and over again. Donald Trump, after the 2016 Nevada primary, said, he loved the poorly educated, and the poorly educated will continue to, show why they're deserving of his continued love and affection, because they don't want to ever lose that. So they need to prove to him that we're still the same poorly educated that you loved before, right? So you're going to stay with us, right? And of course, he's like, sure, whatever, while, off effing his porn stars and screwing over the country and funneling as much money as he can from the government coffers to his own personal wealth. It's the abusive father syndrome. Oh, I love my father. He beats me and everything. Therefore, he loves me so much more than other fathers. And right.
I will do whatever it takes to get his love and not call him out on his his bad behavior and the fact that everything that he's done has been to hurt me in some ungodly way that I can't crawl out of. I hate to be a doom gloom man. I really hate this shit. It really irks the crap out of me. I wish I had more to give and solutions and whatnot, but it's not in my hands. It's in your hands. And
I try to be an optimist as much as possible, but the only way I seem to be able to find joy so far during this presidency is to be able to make jokes and find humor in the ridiculousness of it all. Like, the whole, them making it legal to eat beaver again in Montana or Minnesota or whatever. So, I mean, that was fun, but of course that is we shouldn't allow ourselves to get too distracted from all the shenanigans that are going on. Of course, what do you do with things like, the Trump administration literally putting out an anti-trans Valentine's Day card? Like, what do you do? Do you take that seriously and berate him for it? Or do you take it seriously or do you not take it seriously and just let him get away with it? Because that's the problem, is that we have... If
you let the little things go, the big things go even further.
Right, exactly. But then on the other side of the coin, if you let yourself get distracted too much by stupid stuff like the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico, then you then risk taking your eyes off the ball of the other thing. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's a catch-22.
Well, the problem is the U.S. right now, and no disrespect to everybody out there, you have a surplus of really stupid people, and then you have a surplus of people who don't vote, which hurts your cause even more. You have close to 40% of the country that doesn't fucking vote and could fix things in a heartbeat if they would simply step up to the plate and take a swing.
Right. But you either have the people that don't care, or the people who are disenfranchised with the entire process and don't think their votes matter, or you have the people that are just like, both parties are the same, man, despite the fact that clearly they're not. I consider myself a leftist progressive type person, but you have a bunch of people who I've labeled the quote whiny leftists, like the Young Turfs type. People who just Anna Kasparian gets on there and whines and cries and screams and whatever, but all the terribles, whatever. But then she's helping to create the problems that she's crying about because she's doing things that supports, the conservative turf folks or whatever. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? That's probably something else I was going to record today. I don't know if I'll do it later as just a TikTok that I then upload to Facebook or whatever. But is it worth it to all the people out there who decided to say, okay, I'm angry about trans people competing in women's sports or whatever, even though not many do and not many are successful, and the odds of your little Sally getting denied an athletics scholarship because some trans person was treated as if they're the gender that they are instead of the gender that they were labeled at birth. Was that really worth hundreds of thousands or millions of people dying because we no longer are going to give them food? Is that really worth American farmers losing their money that comes in from the government to feed the people across the planet because they rely on us? Is it really worth the increased people dying in Africa of HIV/AIDS because whatever? Was it really worth all these big stuff are happening because these people allowed themselves to get so angry at the idea that their young girl might have to play some sporting event against maybe a trans person because they don't think that's fair, even though they're technically cherry picking fairness? Because, well, what happens, if somebody, is it fair that somebody might have parents who can afford a coach, who can afford a trainer, and they can spend an extra time with their kid to be able to learn how to do sports? Meanwhile, all the other kids whose parents can't afford that are at a disadvantage. Is it fair that there are people out there who might have be predisposed to thyroid issues and might have difficulties losing weight? Is it fair that they are not going to have the same opportunities as somebody else who might be more athletic, simply because to get into college? Maybe the whole thing is we shouldn't be dictating whether or not somebody gets into college off of the athletic sponsorship. Of course, now we have people who do go to college, and like Division 1A football. Here you can make bank as a student now, and that because of how they ruled that the colleges can't use the likenesses of the players without their consent, and that's fine. I support that, but still, most college athletes are still not going to get rich doing it, whatever it is that they're doing, unless they have something special or unique about them. And the odds are that somebody who complains about trans people in sports, odds are that your daughter is not going to miss out based off of anything other than her own inability to hit the top levels of the course, to be able to get first through fifth or first through eighth or whatever place you might need to qualify for said scholarship or whatever. So it's just
you know what the funniest part is, and I think you're gonna like this. You know who the most successful trans athlete is?
Who?
Bruce Jenner.
Yep. Well, Caitlyn Jenner. Let's make sure to call her Caitlyn Jenner, because that's her real name now.
And what a hypocrite decides to change over and then basically pulls up the ladder on all the rest of them that have figured out sooner than what she did. I guess that's what we call her now.
Yes.
What they identified as. You cannot win with these people.
She'll sit there and argue about trans women participating in women's sports, but she has golfed in women's golfing events. Hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. That is the end. That is the most basic requirement to be a conservative. Is you have to embrace hypocrisy. This is not to say that there are no liberal, leftist, progressive hypocrites, but it's not a prerequisite like it is amongst the conservative political area or sphere or whatever.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know. Hope I gave you some food for thought, Dan, as well as some of your listeners. Us Canadians, we care, but we this is your race to win or lose.
Yeah, this is ours. But the problem is that while it is ours to fix and it's our responsibility to fix it, it's just our stupid people basically put the entire world at risk to feed Donald Trump's ego.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. I
agree. So I guess you and probably all your listeners are sick of hearing me. So
I'm not sick of hearing from you, but I like hearing you call in. It's fine. I mean, we can let somebody else hop on if they want. I don't know if anybody has said in the chat that they want to hop on, but we can give them the opportunity to. But again, Big Hook, I appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for calling in, and you have a good day up in the Great White North or whatever it is you might call it up there.
Yeah.
Have a Molson for me.
Yeah, you guys as well. Actually, it's National Family Day up here in Canada. That's what we did instead of a President's Day like you guys did. So
nice.
That's what we're celebrating today. That's why I'm able to call in today, because I have a stat holiday here to be able to call in on Monday today.
Nice. So, all right. Well, cool. Thank you so much again, and you have a good rest of your night.
You as well. Take care, you guys.
Bye, man. All right, so that was Big Hook. Big Hook, if you want to call in, you can call in as well. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Are you conservative? You want to debate me about something? Go right ahead. Debate me. If you want to talk about how awesome you think Liberal Dan Radio is, maybe I'll add you in a commercial or something. Be like, Liberal Dan Radio is the best podcast ever. Come listen to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Apparently during the show, like Henry was having some issues, I guess, with some internet issues, but I was having internet issues earlier. I was trying to figure out because I was having monitor issues, and I think while dealing with the monitor issues, I unplugged the router, which meant that, nobody was getting internet for a little bit. But I fixed everything, so therefore that's why we're online right now. Hopefully that resolved itself across the house as well. To Jojo Mojo, I really have a lot of hate for MAGA now. I've been way too stressed because of it while already feeling... it's... What this country is going through is going to give a lot of people ulcers. It's going to give a lot of people some severe stress, anxiety, all these issues. I mean, prescriptions for Wellbutrin and Lexapro and all these other type of medications are going to go through the roof because you have people who are just having to deal with just the normal issues of having Donald Trump as a president, let alone the issues of if you're a part of a marginalized and oppressed culture. Like if you're part of a marginalized and oppressed culture, having to sit here, you're a trans person. There are trans veterans, people who served in the military, who did what they needed to do to help make this country actually great. And then Donald Trump is going to fire all of them. He doesn't want to have anybody trans serving. When in reality, who should be serving in the military? The people who are qualified to serve in the military. If you could pass the test, if you could do whatever it is that you want to do, that you can do, be all you can be. If all you can be is enough to do the job required of you, then you should be allowed to do the job required of you. And not everybody is a frontline soldier in the military either. You have fighter pilots. You could have people who work in the backgrounds, like people who are part of the crew of the carriers and the other naval vessels. You have software developers who work for the military. You have a whole lot of people who have lots of positions in the military, and the fact that they don't want to allow the best and the brightest is like reverse DEI, or it is their form of DEI, just it only includes white people and cisgendered folks. So Jeff Gray Big Hook didn't sound Mexican. What? I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I mean, it's just absurd that and again, it is making our military weaker by taking out qualified people and removing them from the ranks. Is that making eggs cheaper? Is that making gas cheaper? Is that making America great? Is that increasing our security at all? No, it's doing none of that. It's just feeding the conservative, mind virus, so to speak. It's just feeding that. It's feeding them. It's making sure that they can get satisfied because they're the ones who feel like, I guess since they won, they won and got Trump in office, so now Trump needs to pay back all the people. But and he doesn't care because it doesn't affect him, so he's gonna harm as many people as possible in doing what they're doing. So it's just very stressful. Again, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261 to call in. Join the conversation if you wish. Give your 2 cents. Stephen Sayers, it will cost us if they take the penny out of circulation. It's look, I get the argument of saying, well, if it costs 2 pennies to make a penny, then is it really worth making the pennies? That being said, I mean, we should be moving to more digital stuff anyway, because why not? We have the technology to be able to handle digital payments, so we don't need to handle as much cash. Pennies can be viewed as stupid, but at the end of the day, what are you going to do? You're going to make, if something is in the middle, let's say if something is like 93 cents and you get rid of the penny, what do you charge? 90 cents or 95 cents? Or do you just go to a full dollar? Well, what happens then? I mean, if the market says, oh, well, we won't pay 95 cents for this, but we'll pay 90 cents, and then, but they would have gotten 93 had you been able to use pennies, then how many of those transactions are going to take place before that amount of money starts adding up? Like if you could sell an item for 93 cents, but it wouldn't sell for 95, and you get rid of the penny, that means you're going to be stuck selling it for 90. I mean, yeah, round up, round down, but still, when you're rounding up and rounding down, it really depends on what the market's going to be able to pay for those particular things. And larger producers who practice with issues like economies of scale and can, absorb, more, losses per unit because they'll make it up by the overall volume of units sold. Those people will have an easier time dealing with the elimination of the penny than perhaps the people who can't, who can't just simply reduce their items by a couple of cents or whatever, because that might very well harm their bottom line if they sell enough to make it harm their bottom line. So again, it's probably going to be a benefit to big corporations versus small ones. It's, if they do manage to get rid of the penny. But again, Donald Trump is going to have all these pet projects that he wants to do, and he's not going to measure twice, cut once. He's not going to do that. He's going to sit here and he's going to just say, I'm going to do this, and then see where the chips fall. See what bad things happen, and then if they have to change their mind, like with the nuclear folks in charge of the nuclear stockpile, they're like, oh, we done made a mistake, and now we got to rectify the situation. Like, again, that's how they're operating. They're operating in crazy world. See, went to get takeout Saturday. My change was 98 cents. I got 19 nickels and 3 pennies. Guess they're getting rid of that. Maybe. Slash and burn would be a better description. Yes, DB Golding over on Twitch. They do. They're slashing and burning. They're cutting everything. They're making sure that. I mean, Donald Trump is like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. He would watch the world burn so he could rule over the ashes. He would sit there and he is almost like every villain in Game of Thrones combined. Like you could find Joffrey in him, you could find the Boltons in him, you could find Walder Frey in him, you could find all sorts of different villains from the series that basically show that examples of Donald Trump. I mean, George R.R. Martin, if he wanted to continue writing bad guys now, he could just base them all in part off of Donald Trump and his ilk and his cronies, and it would be believable because it's what we're dealing with in real life now. So. Let's see, it's not like pennies would be worthless, just not minted anymore. Well, that's true, but I mean, at some point, you're going to lose them in circulation or whatever. Or people might start hoarding them. If they start producing pennies, people might start hoarding them. There are already people that hoard, they hoard the pure copper pennies, and they have like Home Depot buckets full of copper pennies because of how much money they would be able to get if they could get rid of and melt down the copper and sell it just for the copper that's in those pennies in and of themselves. I don't think you can legally do that at this point, but those people are probably waiting for the day that we get rid of the penny so that they can say, okay, this is no longer legal currency, so I'm now going to sell all my copper and make bank. So, let's see how they're trying to get rid of our currency. They're trying to get rid of the penny, supposedly. Yes, Tim, exactly. Pennies. But her emails. Exactly. And I'm just surprised more people don't talk about this when it comes to the whole emails thing. Again, I brought this up before, but I'm frankly surprised that more people just don't talk about the fact that, Donald Trump, during the whole thing, that Donald Trump, made such a big deal about her emails, made such a big deal about, the mishandling of classified information, made such a big deal over the whole thing, and then he actually signs a bill into law that increases the penalty from a misdemeanor to a felony for the mishandling of classified information for top secret documents or whatever, and then he violates the law he passed in and of itself. He violates that own law. He made it a felony, punishable of 5 years in prison for each particular case of, for each particular example of mishandling classified information, and then he goes ahead and clearly violates it many times over. But he just got lucky because he ended up getting cannoned twice, and that ended up helping him greatly because she was doing the bidding of all of his lawyers. She was doing the bidding of Clarence Thomas, because once Clarence Thomas came out with his Dobbs v. Jackson concurrence, I think it was, then she started making the rulings as well. Was it Dobbs v. Jackson or was it the presidential immunity? It might have been the presidential immunity one. Regardless, once he made his ruling, she then made a ruling after. I think it was the whole Solicitor General thing, or the hiring of an outside counsel or whatever, and it wasn't done properly, and he doesn't feel that they should be done that way. And then his lawyers, Trump's lawyers, used that for Judge Cannon, and Judge Cannon was like, okay, I'll agree with you, blah, blah, blah. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. Anyway, another great Canadian Canadian singer. Of course, my favorite thing for Alanis to do is the whole get people singing the wrong lyrics for the song. You ought to know. It's not fair to remind you of the cross-eyed bear that you gave to me. Cross-eyed bear. You ought to know. Anyway. See, I will not what I'm hoarding, but I've got years worth of gummies. What kind of gummies? Like gummy bears or edibles? The Canadian artist formerly known as Alanis Morissette. I saw a great one earlier today where it was the Gulf formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, and they put Prince's symbol and they put it there. And then you also had the one where somebody just labeled it the Gulf of Covfefe. And then of course there was Gulfy McGulfy Face, which all are high quality jokes and or memes, etc. See, hey Dan, how much web fluid you got? I don't know. We'll see. Of course, it matters which Spider-Man you're talking about, because if you're talking about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you don't necessarily need web fluid because you make it naturally, whereas the other Spider-Men, i.e. Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield, those Spider-Men, they had to make their own web fluid to be able to swing around the city and save all the good people as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The Gulf of Nunt. The Gulf of what a bunch of dumb asses we are for voting for Donald Trump as president again. Anyway, call in if you want. If I don't get any more calls soon, I'll probably end up ending the show anyway. 562-542-3261. It's 562-LibDan1 to call in and get on the show if you want to talk to me, if you want to debate me, whatever it is. The Gulf of Grift. Yeah, that's a good one too. Lots of perfectly great names that he could have used, including the one that's, fitting the most is the Gulf of Mexico. Now, usually every May 5th I tell a joke about Cinco de Mayo. However, I will say, that whatever happened in the Gulf of Mexico, and I will not be changing my joke. I will continue to dead name the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of Mexico, because the Gulf of Mexico has never been anything else. Oh, jeez. Time out. F you, Noah Cross. That's what needed to be done. I was seeing it as it was happening. Let's see, is there any other way to... I don't want to add as moderator. Report hate speech. There you go. Hide user on my channel. There you go. Done. We are not letting Mr. Noah Cross do that on my chat. F you, Mr. Cross. But, I guess the fact that we have the trolls coming in does show that we're getting some more people watching. However, that doesn't mean we're going to allow racist crap to be allowed to continue. Normally, we allow stuff within reason to be said, even if we disagree with it, simply because it helps the algorithms, and Al Gore needs more rhythm. But he doesn't need that much rhythm. That's for damn sure. So, anyway. What'd you say, Donald?
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway. So, it does not look like anybody else is calling in. And then, of course, I do have stuff that I need to do. I need to put my whatevers together. My whatchamacallit, what am I talking about? The upload the videos real quick that I recorded over the course of the show. And, of course, I also have to, do some cleaning in the house, because I'm sure the kids did not do enough to my satisfaction, and we need to have the house cleaned well enough so that my wife can walk around whenever she comes home and not feeling like she's going to trip and fall and break something. So I don't know how many different ways I can say this before actually getting them to actually do something, but I have a teen and an almost teen, so that's what happens. And
it is what it is.
Anyways, let's just disable the call-in, turn on do not disturb, I guess we'll deal with anything. Cuddle your wife first. Well, I don't have my wife at home. My wife is at the hospital right now still, unfortunately. She will likely be there till the end of the week, supposedly getting out Saturday. We'll see. Who knows? But, you know, hopefully nothing bad hops. I'm trying not to hold my breath on it, but I'm trying to also not be a negative Nancy or a worry wart about the whole thing, simply because of the fact that I want, I would like, I don't want to jinx her coming home. So, very much looking forward to her coming home. But anyway, when she gets home, she gets home. Of course, I don't want to rush it. They tried to rush it earlier, and that was a bad decision. I'd rather her stay in the hospital as long as she needs in order to make sure that she gets the care that she needs before coming home, making sure that she can absolutely come safely. Make a phone call before you attempt anything. I know the big stuff to throw away. I have a pretty good idea. You know, if it's trash, pick it up. And of course, if it's crap, pick it up. So, and of course,
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
so basically pick up everything not Scottish, right? So anyway, do appreciate the good marriage advice there, DB Golding. Appreciate that. Anyway, I'm assuming that's what that was. Anyway, so let me go ahead. Still have not found a good outro to the good folks over on Twitch that's not going to cause a copyright issue. So of course, when I do end the show, it would be a hard, you know, quick ending over on Twitch, but we will continue with the regular outro music over on YouTube until the show is over. We will have, as normal, the streaming on nerdydan.com on Tuesdays roughly 8 p.m. Central, and then afterwards, Wednesdays, of course, we'll be back with the same show, same bat time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. Wednesday, liberaldanradio.com, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. So until then, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate y'all. We got 40 likes today, 137 views. Appreciate everybody joining in. Keep your eyes out and peeled for other videos that get posted to YouTube. Follow me on social media, pretty much Liberal Dan Radio everywhere. Blue Sky, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, etc. Even Instagram, even though I hardly ever use that. So till then, next time I see you, have a good one. Peace.